Everybody, thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Halloweentown II, Kalabar's Revenge. Rashad G Reviews is back for another video, and I'm having him check out another Halloweentown movie. If you guys remember in my review for the first one that I did with Rashad, he just had some choice words about, what he would do if I gave him Halloweentown II.
I'm going to tell you something right now. If you give me Halloweentown II, bruh, if you give me Halloweentown II, man, you're gonna have a problem, alright? We're gonna have to go rock and stone cold for real up in this motherfucker, alright?
So, I figured I'd give him Halloweentown 2, and to make it even better, you guys can expect to see Rashad G Reviews in every single Halloweentown review. There's 4 of these movies. We're on the second one now, so let's talk a little bit about this. We'll hear from Rashad in just a little bit. So, yeah, Halloweentown 2, Kalabar's Revenge takes place a few years after the event of the first film, and the movie opens up with a narrated kind of recap and also kind of like a, hey, here's what's happened since kind of thing from our main character played by Kimberly J. The name of the character is Marnie. And if you guys don't remember the first film, or you didn't watch the review for the first one, or you're just watching this for fun and you don't really care, the movie in the first one essentially is about this group of kids who their mom was keeping them from their family heritage, where they later find out that they are actually part of a witch-like and warlock bloodline called the Cromwells, and their grandma, who comes to visit every so often, and they're always surprised as to why she's gone for so long, she actually goes to this place called Halloweentown, which is like an alternate world, an alternate universe, where it's just essentially this world of goblins, ghouls, monsters, and different Halloween creatures that all live in peace and just have a normal society. They wear normal clothes, they go do Pilates, they go get haircuts, they go grocery shopping. It just so happens that they happen to be trolls and, goblins and ghosts and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, it's a very silly, over-the-top premise. I should also mention, for those who may not know, that this is a Disney Channel original movie series, so right out of the gate you have to expect cheesiness, you have to expect not the greatest effects, you have to expect a level of cheese here that is just very specific to Disney Channel. So now that we've gotten that all out of the way, what do I think of this movie? I had a good time with it. I found that I really enjoyed going back and seeing these characters again because, like I mentioned, I've seen these movies tons of times. They were movies that played when I was a kid all the time. Sometimes they would replay them around the exact same October season. They would be on reruns all the time, and every Halloween they would play the entirety of the series. There would be Halloweentown marathon days, where it was like on a Saturday or something like that, and we would just sit there and watch these movies all day long. So it goes without saying that, I have a little bit more of a connection to these movies than Rashad, definitely, without a doubt. And, I love these cheesy, over-the-top films. And I think that this movie, for me, similar to the first film, similar to this whole franchise, leans into what I really enjoy about Halloween. I love the monsters. I love the very intense horror films and the creepier element of Halloween. But I've also just always been a big fan of the fun, just silly side of Halloween, putting on costumes, giving and getting candy, all of that jazz. And I think that this movie, these movies, celebrate that about Halloween. The more fun, whimsical, silly side of Halloween, rather than the more gruesome and kind of, intense side of Halloween. And I think that these movies are just kind of a fun kind of Halloween movie to watch. I think that kids can watch it today and still enjoy it, but you got to go in with open mind and expect that these movies are going to be really silly and really cheesy, because that's exactly what they are. So the movie opens up, our characters are a little bit older now, which is kind of crazy because the movie only came out like 3 years after the first one came out, and they say that there's a 2-year time gap between the first film and this one in the opening narration. But the characters look a little bit older than, 2 years has gone by. So it just goes to show how quick kids can grow up in that puberty age of things, or as far as how tall they can look, you know what I mean? So not like they're like super old in this movie, but, it's significantly older looking from the first to the second movie. But yeah, I really enjoy going back and rewatching this movie. One of my favorite elements about this film is just kind of the silliness with the characters, and, seeing them have to kind of traverse this new situation that they're in. So at the beginning of this movie, we're introduced to a new character named Cal, and it turns out that Cal is actually the son of the villain from the first film, Kalabar. super clever. But yeah, so Cal is now essentially stuck on this path of wanting to get revenge for his dad, and his plan now was to take this secret spell book from Debbie Reynolds' character, who's like the head witch of the family, and he's going to essentially make all of Halloweentown into boring humans. And then his plan is on Halloween, when everybody has their costumes on in the Earth world, he was going to turn all of them into the monster or the creature of that whatever costume it is that they're wearing. And so, you know, if somebody's wearing a goblin costume, they're going to turn into a goblin. If they were wearing, you know, a ghost costume, they're going to turn into a ghost. And then everybody in Halloweentown slowly turns from these creatures that they all are very proud to be into very boring humans. The whole of Halloweentown turns like gray, and everybody just gets bland and boring. Kind of like what Rashad and I mentioned in the first review. I think that this is a movie that could be really solid if somebody else did it. You know what I mean? If there was a bigger budget franchise called Halloweentown with somebody like Tim Burton at the helm, or anybody else really, I think that, you know, you have a really cool, eerie, kind of silly idea that could be creepy and fun and whimsical, and, you know, with a little bit less Disney cheese if you had somebody at the helm that could really make it something bigger with a bigger budget. So yeah, I think the premise of this film is pretty cool. Now, the guy who plays Kalabar's son in this movie, Cal, his name is Daniel Kountz, and he is a little wooden in his performance at times. Sometimes he's just kind of playing the cocky, you know, basic villain. You know, we've seen it a million times. But there's also a bunch of times in this movie where he's just kind of giving this very stale, wooden performance. And again, this movie is not necessarily a movie for performances necessarily. You're not watching this for that. But there are certain performances in this film that stand out. I said it in my review for the first one. I think the best part of these movies is Debbie Reynolds. She's so good in the role of Aggie, and, you know, she really knows what kind of movie she's in. And I think it just goes to show that she's such a very seasoned actress that when she was given this very cheesy premise, she just takes it and runs with it. And I think that she really leans into the fun, whimsical side of what this movie needs. I think she was the perfect casting for the role. And in some ways, I think she's too good for this movie, to be completely honest. Too good for this series. But I think she's great. I really love Debbie Reynolds in this role and in this movie. And yeah, the girl who plays Marnie, this is where she really starts to grow on me. You know, she can be a little bit annoying at times. She's pretty much the reason that Cal ends up getting his hands on the spell book. Now, before I continue rambling my thoughts on this movie, let's go ahead and hear what Rashad had to say about this.
Hey Perez, what's the deal? Pickles, is everything kosher? So our tit for tat saga continues, this time watching Halloweentown 2. Now, I know why you did this, because in the last video when I reviewed Halloweentown 1, I said you better not give me 2, because if you give me 2, I'm giving you one of these. And I'm not in reaching distance of you, and I'm not even sure if I could do it to you or not, but let's just say in my head, I did it, alright? I gave you a stone cold stunner with some stank on it. Halloweentown 2. You know what? Well, when I hit play, I said, okay, this is going to be hard to get through like the first one. And I did message you earlier. I said, okay, I'm about a few minutes in, but I'm not really digging this. And, alright, I still don't dig this movie at all. But I will say, it did gain my interest. It kept me interested. Whoever wrote the script did a good job, because there were so many obstacles in this movie to get over where I wanted to see how they're going to get out of these situations. Like, these situations are worse than what the Adam West Batman used to go through back in the 60s, where every episode, him and Robin were at like the brink of death. And how are they going to get out of this shit? Stay tuned next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And this is what it was kind of like. So I'm not going to say I'm going to shit on this movie all the way, because even the first movie I didn't shit on all the way, but it kept me interested to the point where I'm like, okay, I want to see how they get out of this shit. I want to see how this gets resolved, and I want to see the outcome of this. The Cromwell, I think they're the Cromwell family, right? Did I say that right? The witch family, all right? Marty wants to be a full-time witch. She wants to go with her grandmother to Halloweentown and stay there for a year, but when she does that, she got to stay there for good. So, yeah, moms ain't with that. They have the Halloween party. This new boy comes into town with his pops. And Marty, I guess she's in her teenage years, the hormones and shit. You know, I got a teenager myself. You know, she's giving him the fuck me eyes. He's giving her the fuck me eyes. I know this is a Disney movie and I'm cussing, but so what? And, you know, she just met this boy and already ready to drop the drawers. You know, I don't know what happened to the dad. I forgot what they said happened to the dad. They probably explained that in the first movie, but where's this girl's daddy at? Because look here, my daughter, that shit ain't going down. You just met this nigga, all right? Sit your fast ass down somewhere, all right? Get some punch, go out and dance, leave this little motherfucker alone. But she takes him to the grandmama's room. He steals the curse book, and then that's when all this shit takes off. Yeah. I think I did enjoy this better than the first movie, Perez. I think I did because, like I said, this one just had more at stake. I felt like it just had more of an interesting, because it was like always something going on. You just, each scene is like, okay, how are we going to get past this? Okay, how are we going to get past that? And just when you think they're in the clear, some shit happens and you're like, damn, now how are they going to get through this shit? All right, so that was cool. The villain of this movie, I did not like at all. I guess, okay, this movie's called The Revenge of Kalabar, right? And Kalabar, that was a villain from the first movie, if I'm not mistaken. But this time it's supposed to be his son. I must avenge my father's death. Oh, little Gabi, you gonna cry now? This little fucker, I wasn't feeling him as a villain. He he had the personality of a wet mop. The kid spoke so wooden, like his line delivery made Hayden Christensen in Attack of the Clones look like fucking Tom Hanks. All right, his line delivery was so wooden and so bland, especially when he was in that brick square thing in Halloweentown, and he was talking like, "Yes, this is my plan. This is what I plan to do. My father did this, and you destroyed him, and now I must destroy you. You have no hope. Halloweentown is mine now. Ha ha." Ha 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 ha.
Dad and I didn't always agree, but he was the only one that stood in the way of the Cromwell's domination of Halloweentown.
That's absurd.
I said, Jesus Christ. I said, who directed this movie? Like, if I'm the director, I'm like George Lucas. Faster and more intense. What are you doing? But everybody else in this movie was fine. The family was still fine. These characters are starting to grow on me a little bit. Marty, the moms, April O'Neil, the grandma witch, the kids are kind of grown up now, you know what I'm saying? So these kids, this family's starting to grow on me a little bit. So if you plan to torture me with the third movie, I guess I gotta, you know what I mean? It probably won't be too bad to get through. I think the next one's called Halloweentown High School or some shit like that. So anyways, Perez, I thought this movie was not terrible. I would never watch this again. I still try to see this through the eyes of a 10-year-old, and I can't because 10-year-old me was fucked up. I did watch it sober. I was going to drink. I planned to drink, but I said, nah, you know what? I'm going to get through this shit sober. I'm going to be a trooper and get through this shit sober. So I got through it. Grading it, I'm going to give it the same grade that I gave the first one. It's up there with it, but I think this one was kind of better. Well, shit. I guess whatever grade I gave the first movie, bump it up like a half a grade, all right? I guess you could say, is this the Empire Strikes Back of Halloweentown? I mean, they did have a Return of the Jedi yub-nub scene at the end where everybody came back to normal. The Grey Town is now back Halloweentown again, and they had the little nub-nub, Jedi nub-nub. And my favorite character, by the way, my favorite character in this movie is the skeleton cab driver. That guy. And I was mad because we saw him in just regular form. I said, no, give us the skeleton guy. We saw him at the end, and he did the classic, every time he does that, it cracks me up. So, Perez, this shit wasn't terrible to get through. I had a harder time getting through Breaking Dawn, Part 1 and 2 of Twilight. I'm going to open my mouth again. Those are probably the worst movies ever. So, this is not as bad as the Twilight movies. All right, I will give it that. So anyways, Big Dog, thank you for having this video once again. What you got next for me? I believe next you're watching Fright Night. Can't wait to hear your views on that. So, yeah, man, the floor is yours. Get back into Halloweentown, man. What's happening?
A big thanks to Rashad for being here in another video. As usual, my friend, loved having you in this video. Loved hearing what you have to say about this franchise. These are movies that I sent to you knowing that you were not going to like them. But I like to hear that you slowly were getting a little more attached to the characters. Because that was my goal, right? Is to make you watch these movies. Because I know, as a film fan, you're really watching them. And whether you're taking a sip of tequila or not, I'm just glad that you're down to watch these movies. And give me your genuine take on these films. So, loved hearing what you have to say on this movie, man. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the next two. too. And yeah, man, going back like what I was saying, this movie is just silly, good, really over the top, dumb fun. Is this movie gonna work for everybody? No, not in any way, shape, or form. Look at what Rashad said. Like, I think it just comes down to a disconnect, or the fact that this is a childhood movie for me, but I know some people who have kind of found these movies over time and kind of grew to like them. But you gotta know that you're watching a made-for-TV cheesy Halloween Disney film. It's light, it's fun, it's made for families and kids. But one thing I really enjoy about this film is the use of practical effects. Now, there are some pretty bad digital effects, but one of the best practical effects that this movie has is, like I mentioned, Cal, the main villain, is trying to turn the world into monsters, and he ends up making sure that their mom, who's in the human world at the time, is wearing like this goblin creature mask, and at one point he literally does a spell on her where she's incapable of taking the mask off. He ends up turning them all into monsters for a brief period of time before they turn it all around, and her makeup is easily the best part of the whole movie. When their mom turns into this like goblin creature, the makeup, the look, the feel, it's kind of creepy. It's easily like the creepiest part of this movie, and I think that the makeup is really, really good there. I always thought it as a kid, and today I feel the exact same way, that it's kind of like a standout moment as far as the special effects in this movie and the makeup. Like, there's good makeup and mask and special effects in these movies, but a lot of it's very redundant. Like, you'll see the same heads of different creatures just on different people, like the same mask, but it's just painted different, but it's the exact same mold, where you could tell that that's where they have to kind of cut their budget and kind of do a lot of redundant stuff like that. But I think what they did with their mom turning into this goblin creature was really solid. She looks great in that moment. I think it's definitely one of the creepiest moments of the movie. But yeah, I can definitely agree with what Rashad said. This movie definitely has some eye-rolling moments. I'm a little more optimistic on it because I think it's funny that I made Rashad watch this movie, and it's also kind of just fun to go back and watch these nostalgic movies. I've been able to just kind of enjoy sitting down with my girlfriend. We both grew up watching these movies and kind of just laugh at these moments that do not hold up, but also just are able to appreciate the moments that do hold up and the performances that do hold up, and kind of just lean into our nostalgia. So I say that so you guys know that I'm, a little bit biased on this, but it's still a fun movie in my opinion. I think it's silly, but I could totally be objective with the fact that this is not a movie for everybody, that some of the performances are not great, some of the line delivery, and certain things in the story that are just super convenient. There's literally a moment where they have a time travel spell, and they're trying to time travel to a specific time in order for them to try to beat the guy from getting the spell book that he originally got. And when they keep bouncing around in time, they end up losing the time travel spell and can no longer do it. And then out of nowhere, the guy who's literally been watching them do the time travel spell the entire time just so happens to mention that he has one in his closet. Now, I should mention that this guy that I'm talking about is kind of like known. He's like this really over-the-top troll who's kind of funny. He's a hilarious part of the movie, in my opinion. This troll character, who at one point is folding socks, or matching socks, I should say, his house is essentially known for being the place that anything that's lost shows up in his front yard. And then he just keeps it for himself. And so his house is like a big hoarder's house, but anything that's lost just appears in his house. Obviously, very silly, dumb fantasy stuff. But I guess he mentions very briefly at one point, after they've spent like multiple attempts time traveling, that, oh yeah, a wizard just so happened to lose his time, like some sort of time machine, and the guy just opens up his closet and is like a portal into like time. What? And if you're watching this and thinking, Anthony, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I genuinely have lost you here. That's what these movies are. Just silly, over-the-top, dumb fun that sometimes make no sense and are a little bit incoherent, but at the same time, you kind of just ride it out and just have fun with how silly these movies are. At least that's what it is for me. But I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Have you seen this movie? Have you not seen this movie? And if you haven't, go watch it. Even if it's just to come back to this video and let me know that you think it's fucking terrible. And if that's the case, that's totally okay. I could totally understand that. But yeah, I definitely recommend you guys check out this movie if you have not already done so. It's silly, it's over the top, it's ridiculous. But as usual, you can find the link to Rashad's channel down below in the description box. Go give him some love. Hit that like button down below if you guys enjoyed this video. Comment your thoughts. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Genuinely, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys every single time for watching a video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.